Alrighty, we will get this started. So I declare the December Ordinary Council meeting open, and I welcome all our councillors, staff, and members of the gallery. I don't think I've ever seen so many people in our gallery at an Ordinary Council meeting, so you are all welcome. Disclaimer, members of the public are advised that recommendations to council contained within this agenda can be subject to change. Applicants and other interested parties should refrain from taking any action until written advice is received, confirming council's decision with respect to any particular issue. Any statement or insinuation of approval regarding any planning or development application made during an ordinary council meeting is not to be taken as notice of approval. Anyone who has an application lodged with the Shire must obtain and should only rely on written confirmation of the outcome of the application and any conditions attached to the decision made by council. Council members and the community are reminded that should an exemption resolution be passed, this has the effect of making the decision to accept the officer's recommendation stated in the agenda as the council's decision without change. An audio and visual record will be made by means of live streaming of these proceedings and uploaded to the Shire's YouTube page for viewing. Acknowledgement of country. The Shire of Harvey acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land and their continuing connection to the land, water and community. We pay our respects to all members of the Aboriginal communities and their cultures, and to elders and emerging elders, both past and present. Procedural motion, I put forth that Council suspend Standing Orders Part 8, Clause 8.5, members to indicate their intention to speak and to rise when speaking, to allow members to remain seated when speaking, to improve the quality of the audio recording of the meeting. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Coleman. Thank you. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Thank you. Councillors, before we start into the meeting this afternoon, I would just like to take a moment to extend our heartfelt condolences to those who have lost loved ones and to those injured or impacted through the tragic circumstances that took place at Bondi Beach on the 14th of December. I, like many Australians, am personally shocked and deeply saddened by the tragic events that unfolded. A senseless act of violence upon both the Australian Jewish community and our Australian way of life. On behalf of the Shire of Harvey Council, staff and our communities, our thoughts are with everyone that has been affected, and it's times like this that we are reminded of the power of unity and the importance of looking after each other. I'll just have a moment of reflection if we can. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We'll now move on to the record of apologies and leave of absence. Apologies is nil. Leave of absence is nil. Applications for leave of absence. Do we have any applications, councillors? Thank you. Declarations of members and officers' personal interest. There are up on the screen at the moment. Councillors, I'll give you a moment to have a look. If there are any others, please let me know. Councillor Morley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I declare a perceived impartiality interest in this matter due to lobbying by both the proponent and individuals opposed to the proposed development. I believe I am able to make an impartial decision on this matter based on the merits of the application in accordance with the Local Government Act 1995.
Thank you, Councillor Morley. That's noted. Thank you. Any others, councillors? Okay, thank you. Questions by members of which due notice has been given is nil. Response to previous questions taken on notice are up on the screen, the responses, and written advice has been sent to the individuals that have asked those particular questions. I'll now move into public question time. And I would like to invite Miss India Stone to come forward. Welcome, India. You have 2 questions. If you just state your name and your address, that would be fabulous. Thank you. Just one moment, India. Can you just turn on the microphone?
Oh, did I not? Didn't do it again. Sorry. I'll get there one day with it, hey? Hold on a minute. Sorry. Belinda's asked me to ask, why did the Shire share this post with regards to the We Are Listening post? Why did the Shire share this post across a significant number of community pages, knowing that they could not listen to the responses? This deliberate action seems opposite to the intent claimed by the post. The Shire was, in fact, not able to listen unless you responded to the original post.
Thank you, India, for your question. The Shire uses social media primarily to share information, promote services and engagement opportunities, and to understand general community sentiment. It is not used as a formal complaints or service request system. The purpose of sharing the We Are Listening post across community pages was to remind, educate, and to encourage our community about the formal avenues to be used to provide feedback to the Shire. The post provided the relevant links and information for the community to provide their feedback as follows, which was contact a counsellor, report an issue with infrastructure through the Report It platform, report an issue in your town site, which is report an issue in your town site, and share your feedback with us. And of course, the Shire email, and to visit the Australind or the Harvey administration centres. For your information, under the States Record Act 2000 WA, the Shire is required to ensure that complaints, requests and correspondence are properly captured, recorded, stored and retrievable. Whilst social media helps us understand general community sentiment, it is not an official channel for receiving or actioning requests. To meet our record-keeping, privacy and governance obligations, the Shire must receive feedback through our formal channels that allows concerns to be properly recorded, assessed and responded to. Thank you.
No worries. The second question, which is up there, will an action plan and timeline for these concerns be published using Facebook as a response to the public?
Thank you for your second question. Any action plans, timelines or formal responses arising from community feedback sent through the appropriate avenues as listed previously will be developed and communicated through the Shire's official channels, including the Shire website, direct correspondence where appropriate, council agendas and minutes, and formal updates to the community. While Facebook may be used to promote or link to this information, it is not the primary platform for publishing formal action plans or timelines. This ensures information is accurate, accessible to all residents, including those not on social media, and managed in line with governance, record keeping and privacy obligations. Thank you, India. I'd like to invite Mrs. McGregor to come forward. Thank you, Mrs. McGregor, with your question. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Morley.
Just trying to say to you. Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you for the replies to my question on notice last. There's still a little bit of follow-up to do with that. This is in connection with a visit that last week council staff took the licence for the using of the Brunswick tennis courts down to Brunswick, met the members at the court. The licence was signed by the members of Brunswick Tennis Club, but then had to be brought back to the council area, to the offices, to be signed by the Shire. Assuming there was no changes to that document, the licence document, why weren't the Shire officers in attendance at Brunswick given the authority to sign that document there and then? The document has still not been returned to the Brunswick Tennis Court people, which means that they cannot play yet. And it's just ridiculous and not common sense at all.
Thank you, Mrs McGregor. I'll put that to Manager Governance.
Thank you. And through the Shire President, yes, we have the document. The officers in attendance aren't delegated to sign under the property local law, so that document's been provided through to our office for signing and will be signed in due course. Shouldn't be long.
What does signed in due course mean, Madam Chairman? There is no hindrance, surely, to the document being signed. It was agreed by the Brunswick Tennis Club. It was designed by the Shire. What is the hold-up? You're losing, the Brunswick Tennis Club members are losing days of playing.
Through the Shire President, the document's there to be signed. We'll get it signed for you as soon as possible.
Mrs McGregor, I'll follow that up for you and get it, we'll action it as
I would
quickly
really
as we
appreciate
possibly
it
can.
because we've lost 2 years of playing anyway.
Yep.
And to lose
And I
another
know,
few
I know
days.
that the Brunswick Tennis Club is keen to get out there, so I will follow that up for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr Bowie, thank you. Do we have Mr Bowie here? No question? Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from the gallery? No? Thank you. We'll move into petitions, deputations and presentations. I'd like to invite Ms Kylie Shaw to come forward to address the council in relation to item 12.3.1, the proposed structure plan, lot 401 Raymond Road, Rowlands. Welcome, Kylie, and I believe you have a presentation. Thank you.
Yes. Afternoon all, councillors, staff and members of the public. Right, which one do I just... okay. This is in relation to the structure plan of lot 401 Forest Highway in Rowlands. I understand there are several views on this matter and a lot of information to consider. However, the reason why we are here is for council to make a decision on this item. Basically, the existing style of development within Meadow Landing cannot be reproduced in this location with the current policies and planning framework in place. As development within the state is guided by various local and state planning policies and approvals issued accordingly, significant changes have been implemented in the years since the development of the existing Meadow Landing lots. Only today, the Minister for Planning, John Carey, has released the Planning for Water policy. This has been a draft policy for a number of years. It now becomes operational within about 2 days. So that Planning for Water policy brings together the government sewer policy that we spoke of last week, and it also directly relates to the Planning and Development Act. Part of the state planning policy specifically states on-site wastewater disposal is only provided where reticulated sewage is not a viable option and where the associated risks are appropriately managed. The I'd also like just to present a few slides on the government sewer policy. This relates directly to providing a development that is unsewered with larger lots. So this is the policy intent. Requires reticulated sewerage to be provided during the subdivision and development of land. I'll just go through these quickly. Part of the policy measures, as you can see highlighted, planning proposals are required to connect to and provide for reticulated sewer. Where the responsible authority determines any future or proposed subdivision or development can be reasonably connected to reticulated sewer. And also where the land is being rezoned for the recreation of lots, other than lots of 1 hectare, the highest groundwater level is less than 0.5 below the natural ground level. So basically what we're looking at is the mapping from the state government showing the site within a sewer sensitive area. So this is related to 2 categories: within an estuary catchment and also within 1 kilometre of significant wetland, which is the river. The site is available to be connected to retic sewer. This is the Water Corp's sewer mapping, so this is their future catchment mapping, and it also gives an indication on how the land is to be connected to sewer. And I've also put an extract from the Water Corporation indicating that it is to be connected to sewer. The pump station is in place from Treendale, so that allows for connection. The pump station is of capacity that has been allowed for the development of this site. Just in relation to groundwater, within the policy planning for water and the government sewer policy, both state the highest groundwater is less than 0.5 below the natural ground level. It needs to be connected to sewer. So we've had several groundwater monitoring studies done, and that indicates that, and that's just an extract from the geotech report, which shows several sites are less than 0.5 metres groundwater impact. This is also taken from the government sewer policy, and this specifies when and the sizes that need to be connected to sewerage. So you'll see in sewer sensitive areas, which this site is, the minimum lot size is 1 hectare. This is a email from Department of Water. In summary, the department does not support lot density of R2.5 and R5, which is 2,000 square metres to 4,000 square metres lots, without the connection to retic sewer. So it is clear from those policies and those emails that the alternative plan suggested by staff simply does not work. To consider an alternative plan is inefficient use of time and resources. The advertising assessment and another determination by council is likely to delay the project considerably for a plan that is certainly not going to be supported by state agencies and cannot be implemented. We request council make a determination on the item and the proposal can move forward for further assessment by the WAPC, as is the normal process. Thank you. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Kylie. Do we have any questions, councillors? No questions. Thank you, Kylie. May I invite Mr. Gary Favell to come forward to address council in relation to item 12.3.1, the proposed structure plan, lot 401 Raymond Road, Rowlands. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you, Madam President, councillors, staff and members of the public. My name is Gary Flavell. I reside in Warburton Street, Meadow Landing, and have done for the past 10 years. The original notification from Shire came through in roughly June, July, and I addressed the council in July before the residents had a meeting, and I indicated that what we were going to do was get a working group and come back to the council with a tsunami, an absolute tsunami of objections, and that subsequently has been borne out with the submissions received by the Shire in due course after that closed. I want to go back to last week's, and Warburton Street, the working group was established. I was on that working group, and then due to personal situations with my family, I wasn't able to devote the time, so I withdrew, and others have come on board. But I'm here today after being at the meeting last week to speak on behalf of a street that is going to have, if this proposal was put through, a traffic increase from 54 vehicles to just under 1,600 vehicles per day. Now, I came from Manjimup as a retiree 10 years ago and could not have got a better location, could not have got a better location with regards amenities, and of course with a wife who has health problems, proximity to medical attention in Bunbury. It's second to none. The subdivision of Meadow Landing is second to none. You only have to grab your dog, and I'm an ardent dog walker, and travel the estate to see just exactly how people that have come from Corrigan, Arthur River, Bridgetown, the Swan Valley, how they've come to this particular community-minded subdivision. And I cannot sit back and could not sit back after last week's addresses by the proponent and Harley Dykstra without coming and standing before you and saying there are quite a few items that need to be clarified, in fact rebutted as not being true. The proponent initially led off with his purchase of the land, lot 401, and that he was going to run cattle on it. But due to, and this was a terrible indictment on the residents of Meadow Landing, but due to fence posts and gates being removed, he was not able to continue the livelihood of grazing stock on that land. Now, there's only two gates. The fencing is and has not been touched in the last 25 years. There's two gates to the block, and the gate on the Meadow Landing end off Chidlow, it's still there. The fencing's still there. The gate that is on Raymond Road, whether it was there or not, I do not know, but it could have been removed. But just to say that it's Meadow Landing residents that have cut short a man's income, a man's livelihood, is not true. this morning, one of the reasons that place was destocked was this morning I looked at the dam. Now, on the 1st of November, that dam on that property was full. This morning, it is at 45%. By the end of February, it will be dry. It would not support grazing. So just to insinuate that Meadow Landing residents were in any way responsible for the removal of a gate, if that occurred, it wasn't backed up by a police report, and I really hope that the statute of limitations against the residents' integrity has expired by the proponent. It is not necessary. It wasn't necessary. We had a councillor ask a question: how many houses face the development? And it was a sort of gotcha conclusion, because the answer is 1. But all the houses along Craigie, they don't face the proposed development, they back onto it. And the design of houses and entertaining areas where if the proponent was successful with the application, those houses would overlook the rear yards of the existing residences. And there's 24 off the plan that you have. There's 24 residences that would overlook the residences along Craigie, Chidlow and McGregor. Now, I just reflect to the TV ads that we had about selling land in Treendale a couple of years ago. There was a young mum. She attended the primary school. She was happy. She went to the gym. She was happy. She went to the shops because they were local. She was happy. And then it shows them entertaining. Where are they? In the front yard. There's no room at the back because of colour-bond fencing. So you've got these blocks, and it's been established in your agenda briefing notes by council officers that these lots are smaller. They're smaller than Treendale. They're smaller than Kingston. And then we come round to Warburton Street. And I have Mr. and Mrs. Davidson, who moved there in 2003. They reside at the last house at the end of Warburton Street. And on their western boundary, they are now going to have 7 backyards. Just on one flank, 7 backyards where they face the subdivision. And it can be expected that front yard entertaining would have to be the norm in that area for those 24 blocks. And it would seriously impair the entertaining area that the established houses already have. We had a little bit of ad-libbing when a couple of questions were asked of Harley Dykstra as to what they might do. And it was far from satisfactory. A proper proposal would come up with screening. A proper proposal would mention engagement with the local community. That hasn't happened. Not a word from Harley Dykstra and not a word from the proponent. We found out this from the Shire, but back in 2004 when it was re-gazetted, it's a contentious issue where you say, oh yes, it was advertised in the Government Gazette, it was advertised on your Shire website, and it was in 2 media publications for 90 days or whatever the statutory thing. in 2025, I know that's the norm, and I would hope that inwardly the Shire is, with other local governments, are trying to come up with something that will allow the residents who are concerned to be better informed and more rapidly informed, because we wouldn't be here today if in 2024 the residents knew that that rezoning had occurred. We wouldn't have been here today, because suddenly the same response that you've got, the Shire has got, the responses that you got from the residents, the ratepayers who you represent, would be the same as what it is now. But the unique thing about the working group and the residents of Meadow Landing is they're not opposed to development. We're not saying that the proponent is not entitled to develop on that land. But as in 2023, there was half-acre allotment plans lodged by the proponent, but he let it lapse. Why didn't he go ahead with it? That's a question that he has to answer. He's come back now, and look, this is just a commercial venture. The cost by any person to do a development like that is going to be horrendous. But enterprise is alive, it thrives in our community, and it's the right of everyone to have that enterprise. That we get hold of the proponent gets hold of an approved application, puts it in his briefcase, and hightails it to Perth to meet up with the likes of Satterleys, Cedar Woods, Cube Property, and say, look what I've got. What's it worth? The residents of Meadow Landing couldn't care a rat's. Now, Harley Dykstra have submitted, and it's throughout the agenda briefing notes, they've submitted a poor plan. They've been caught out because they won't be seeing through the project. It'll be taken over by the corporations in Perth. And we might plonk a tree here or give them a $300 voucher. We might do this, we might do that. For goodness sake, is this a professional organisation that is coming before Shire and saying, we're credible, we're going to carry out everything to the letter of the law? What our working group has done, and they're to be commended on not playing the man, being objective, being subjective, and contributing towards the process. And this is a process. It's not a matter of taking your bat and ball and go home, and we had that indication last week. You know, why should we, and again today, why should we have to go through this again and again? If you take up a car for registration and it doesn't meet the regulations, you've got to go away and get it fixed and bring it back. This is no different. We live by regulation, and it's through local government, state government, federal government. And for goodness sake, we're at the stage where if you can't be seen to be saying we're making a positive contribution to this process, there is something drastically wrong. The very much last week, the Shire of Harvey staff had credibility attacked in the contents of that agenda briefing, or those agenda briefing notes. Now, they're to be, through the CEO, the Shire President, they're to be commended for their effort in putting the information before you and considering the applications put in by the ratepayers, the people that you represent. The sewer, very, very touchy subject, and it's not my expertise, and I am not going to touch it. But there was an exaggerated description of if you allowed septic tanks that exist there now. They exist on the half-acre lots on the southwest corner, the end of Craigie, and the Harley Dykstra representative, representing the proponent, tried to ridicule the sand dunes we're going to have as the 10th wonder of the world around this subdivision, half-acre lots. You know, it's incredible. You'd expect the Sphinx or Egyptian other features to come in. I would take anyone around and drive them past the lots that are there now, half-acre and 1 acre, and say, tell me where the septics are. That's my comment about credibility. If you come in and you stand before the Shire and you make these remarks, the format last week didn't allow any reply, and then we got to the housing, the affordable housing question. And look, it's a very, very topical subject Australia-wide. It's not up to Harvey Shire Council to solve the affordable housing issues throughout Bunbury, because just across Raymond Road, right, 400 metres from this proposed venture is the Treendale East LSP, which is far more advanced and far likely to be completed, containing the school, heaps of public open space, etc. But that doesn't get a mention. And then go down to Usher, you've got 55 hectares. 55 hectares released for housing. And then we've also got the satellite city at Waterloo. That's still loping around. The other side of the Collie River, which is our southern boundary. And in the process of people purchasing half-acre lots at Lot 401, 45 of them, they would be second or third home-owning people who, through being a tradie, family, want a larger allotment. So the house that they're currently in comes onto the market. So there's another 45. Another 45 opportunities for affordable housing. This development is not going to solve the affordable housing. It's going to be a blight on our landscape, and I strongly urge you to adhere to the recommendations by your staff, so expertly put together, that further submissions be put forward by the proponent, because it just doesn't wash that it's necessarily going to solve affordable housing.
Mr. Favell, you're at the 10-minute mark, so if I can just ask you to...
There, I'll conclude by saying I thank the staff for their contribution. Considerable. They've carried out their job with the utmost profession in the simplest of ways, and yet the technical ways are there for you and everyone else to consider. And councillors, there would be very few proposals come up before you where you've got such a segregated community. Even off Turn Road, down the northeastern corner, you've got half-acre lot proposals. And the only blight is going to be Lot 401 if it goes ahead in the format that is put forward. I strongly urge you to consider, as I said, the advice of your expert staff to reject the proposal and request that other additions be made to it and it be reconsidered. I thank you for your time. I'll take any questions.
Any questions, councillors? Thank you, Mr. Favell. Thank you.
Thank you.
I now like to invite Mr. Dennis Earnshaw to come forward, thank you, to address council in relation to item 12.3.1. Welcome, Mr. Earnshaw.
Madam President, thank you. Councillors and Shire staff, thank you very much for this opportunity to talk before you again. And I'd also like to have a little shout out to everyone in the gallery. Thank you very much for coming along. It is an important issue for our community, and I've got a lovely another presentation for you. I've had to bring the glasses today. I've got a little bit of reading to do, but we'll get you entertained. So, we might have some questions along the way. If I can ask if you just hold them to the end, and we'll do the best to answer them as we go. So to start, it's quite obvious, council has an important role to play today, okay? So the decision that's made today is going to shape our community for generations to come, not just the next few years, all right? When Lot 401 was advertised, there were high levels of anxiety in our community. We were not familiar with due process. We didn't know what's going to happen next. So we formed our working group so our voices would be clear. We want development, just not this one. You'll hear me speak about a long-term vision and generational amenity. I'll show that the current design is out of context in this location, out of context in terms of its local character, livability and community needs. Good planning is an investment in the community, a legacy that compounds over generations. 401 needs due process, no rush. And the next step in due process is accepting the officer's recommendation. Let's talk about why. There's Meadow Landing, circled around. A vision that started 25 years ago. It was a dairy farm locked by a highway, a road and a river, and it's inspired to give semi-rural lifestyle. It provides diversity that is essential in a good long-term planning. Not everyone wants to be on little tiny blocks. We who live here are temporary custodians. Our decisions today affect generations to come. We call it generational amenity. So this is Lot 401. So it's bound by the highway and Raymond Road. It is the last piece of the Meadow Landing vision. We bring this up because the applicant has cited within that this development is in response to the housing crisis. That's only going to be solved by them, but no, it's only solved by long-term considered strategies. Knee-jerk designs create social discord and harm. The communities will be divided, okay? So we have to ask ourselves, can we stand before our grandchildren and be proud of the community we built? Fortunately, as Gary alluded to my thunder, Harvey Shire is on the front foot, Treendale East. Now I'll bring this to, circled in yellow, orange, one of those colours. So Treendale East, quick overview, 2,200 homes, over 5,000 residents. It's going to grow the population by 15%. And I say, well done, councillors, for making this happen. It's progressing through development, but I'd like to draw your attention to the boundaries. It's just like Meadow Landing. It's an old dairy farm that's been given a vision. This time, it's going to be a vibrant, bustling community, contemporary, connected, self-contained, clear identity and affordable. Two communities, two identities. I highlight this because we're going to see some differences. So they're going to have that 5,000 population, a new primary school, 50 hectares of public open space. We're going to have green streets with footpaths and reticulated verges, central recreation grounds. High density in this context is appropriate. It is supported by the infrastructure. It is balanced by environmental protection and community well-being. This is orderly and proper planning, creating generational amenity. If we talk about good, better, best outcomes, this reflects the best outcome. And I think we should get excited about this. It's going to be a fascinating little development here. So we come across and say, well, this is what we've proposed in the LSP. Now, I say to you, if it was inside Treendale East, it may just reach good. Not better, not best. It's right there on the bottom of the scale in a high-density development. But here in Meadow Landing, it's out of context. No vision, no amenity, no infrastructure to support it, no ability to create a strong sense of community, no identity. Here is the development. Now, the LSP states, hey, we're going to foster a strong sense of community and identity. But I ask, what identity will it be? So, if someone asks you, I live at Meadow Landings, what comes to mind? Is this the best planning outcome in the context of Meadow Landing? We all say no, does not even come close to good. This topic keeps coming up, and it's an excuse for why it must happen. But it's creating a bias in everyone's perspective. Proper planning and design should determine services, not the other way around. The sewer shouldn't drive the design drives the services requirement. Now, the council's senior planning officer has provided advice on sewerage. It can be reticulated or it can be on-site. We, the working group, have got independent advice that supports the officer's statements. We also have professional advice that indicates that low-density reticulated sewerage is affordable. Now, that affordable is a perspective. How much is the lots? And how much of that lot price is for the sewerage? There are multiple options available for this site, and sewerage is not a valid reason for high density in this context. I say, let's take sewerage off the table and let's just move on with proper planning. So the design is abrasive, okay? It's not properly considered and it's out of context and character. So there's no attempt to seamlessly integrate. It creates a constant state of unease with the existing properties, okay? We've got open backyards, and Mr. Flavelle mentioned that. And the applicant's best idea was a road. And what they haven't mentioned is that they asked for some fill, so that road is going to be elevated at points. And so these houses will be looking down into properties. That is a complete loss of privacy amenity. So 24 houses looking into these 8 homes. That is, the road separation is grossly inadequate and out of context for the area. So we bring you to the basin that we had to have for the public open space. We found a picture. This is just down Craigie Drive. This is smaller. The ones that's going to be in the LSP are going to be a lot larger. But I ask you, how could such a flood drainage requirement be legitimately considered as a public open space? So here we have the LSP. Is this the future? Ad hoc designs, no identity, thrown into established communities. Why isn't the applicant convincing us that this is a good idea? Why is it up to the community to speak up loudly as to how bad the plan is? The applicant has not demonstrated why the Meadow Landing vision should be changed and how the amenity will be enriched. Does this design protect local character and livability? We can see it doesn't. As I mentioned, in planning terms, we often speak about good, better, best. Treendale East reflects the best type of outcome, one that integrates growth while protecting character, amenity and sustainability. 401 doesn't even register on good planning outcome when assessed against the Shire's scheme aims and strategic framework, which are protect amenity and environment, enhance livability and community well-being, and enable sustainable outcomes that benefits residents today and into the future. Lot 401 belongs in a Treendale East style development with the infrastructure to support it. It is out of context when placed on this lot surrounded by low density meadow landing. We can do better. The officer's recommendation is that path to best planning outcome. The low density design for Lot 401 will align with the Shire's strategic aims, community values and community expectations. Is this the Meadow Landing's 25-year vision complete? Now I say it's a bit hard to see on the screen because it fits so perfectly. So perfect, it's as though it was inspired by an original concept. Here it is, low density vision, a bit easier to see. It's cohesive, it fits. Its identity is Meadow Landing. So 401 was always a final piece of the complete design. Hundreds of people have built in keeping with the 25-year-old vision and all the planning requirements as well. No one expected a polar opposite design when this came up. So the applicant has taken 25 years to reach this point. What's a little bit more time to get it right? We owe it to future generations to ensure orderly and proper planning to complete the vision. So that brings us down to what options does council have? So the council have the officer's recommendation, but there are two other alternatives. So I thought I'd outline the consequences to us, the community, for each of those options. So option one, down the bottom there, you approve it. WAPC will review and make an assessment. The community will be pushed to go and lobby WAPC with enough facts so they can make an informed decision. And we can only hope it gets rejected. And what if it isn't? Can the Shire of Harvey afford the generational cost? All right, don't approve. It still will be going to WAPC for review. They will make their assessment. WAPC can see legitimately that we didn't want it, great, but they still will assess it. So the community is now left back to lobby WAPC with enough information so they can make an informed decision. It's up to the community again to lobby WAPC. We can only hope it gets rejected, and again, what happens if it isn't? So let's go with the officer's recommendation. It provides a path where the design is fixed to address the deficiencies and the community concerns. It's the path. It'll go out for public comment, and if the applicant does it right, we're all going to love it, okay? But most importantly, when it goes to WAPC, they see both designs. They have a balanced view. WAPC will see the community support around the low density design. WAPC decision will be the right one. So officer's recommendation ensures due process and the best planning outcome. Like Treendale East, this will be the best planning outcome. The ratepayers of the Harvey Shire are speaking with one voice. Accept the officer's recommendation. A low-density outcome for Lot 401 aligns with the strategic aim of balancing growth, character and amenity. It meets the scheme's objectives for sustainability and appropriate development and reflects the community's values and expectations, not just short-term yield. It safeguards character, protects amenity and builds the kind of community future generations will thank us for. So the position of councillor comes with great responsibility, all right? And often decisions need to be made without hearing any voices from us. The community is silent. This is one case where no further thought is required. Our voices are loud. Council have employed experienced, qualified professionals. Continue to trust them and lean on us, the community. You are our voice now. We have your back. We are your strength. Please accept the officer's recommendation. Thank you. Do you have any questions, please?
Thank you, Mr Earnshaw. Are there any questions, councillors? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite Mr Paul Beach, if he's in the room. Thank you, Mr Beach. Welcome back to the chamber. Bet you've never seen so many people in this chamber for a while. Mr Beach would like to address council in relation to item 12.2.1, the Uduck Road Plain Trees. Welcome, Mr Beach.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through the Chair, councillors. I'm speaking today on this item, and I acknowledge that my comments may be somewhat premature should the officer's recommendation be adopted in full. However, I feel it important to place several key matters on the public record for council's consideration. The trees in question were planted approximately 25 years ago, around about 2000, the year 2000, give and take a year or two, and that's contrary to what was in the officer's report of 12 to 15 years. And it was done in consultation with the Harvey Main Street Committee, and we're fortunate to have the chair of Harvey Main Street with us tonight, unbeknownst to me, but anyway, he's they were installed with substantial root guards, and to the best of my recollection, we sourced them from the eastern states. And over the past 2.5 years, these tree guards have done exactly what they were intended to do. The major structural and tap roots have been established deep within the soil profile. And what we are seeing now are secondary roots, which, if selectively removed, would not hinder the health, stability, or the long-term growth of the trees. Trees, like any other council asset or piece of infrastructure, require ongoing maintenance. They cannot simply be planted and ignored. And two good examples are the jacarandas at the east of Uduck Road and the box trees to the west. Each require pruning each year. Trees carry a clear whole-of-life cost, just as roads, footpaths and drainage do, and that must be factored into the responsible asset management. Deciduous trees in particular provide significant environmental and social and economic benefits that strongly support their retention. Environmentally, they offer shade during the warm summer months, help reducing urban heat and in some cases lowering energy costs for nearby buildings. And in winter, once the leaves have fallen, they allow sunlight to reach the roads, footpaths and adjoining properties, improving warmth, visibility and amenity. Their seasonal cycle also supports biodiversity by providing habitat and food sources for bird life and insects. From a community and visual perspective, the value of the deciduous trees should not be underestimated. Autumn colour enhances the character and attractiveness of our streetscape and public spaces, contributing positively to the community well-being and a sense of place. Well-treed streets are widely recognised as being more appealing and can increase property values and encourage greater use and enjoyment of public areas. It is acknowledged that leaf drop does cause short-term maintenance requirements. However, This is a predictable and seasonal issue and can be effectively managed through regular sweeping and scheduled clean-up programs. In my view, the benefits delivered by these trees far outweigh the temporary inconvenience of leaf litter over a limited period each year. On a personal note, I have to deal with leaves all year round from the red gums opposite my house, together with honky nuts. Currently, I've got jacaranda leaves all over the place. But there's no complaints. That's the environment that we live in. Concerns regarding the route-related impacts on road services are valid. However, in many cases, these issues can be addressed through proactive and sensible asset management. Infrastructure can often be adapted, repaired, or protected without removing mature trees that would take decades to replace if lost. In conclusion, these deciduous trees are a valued community asset with appropriate management and maintenance strategies in place. The challenges associated with leaf drop, root growth are manageable and do not outweigh the substantial environmental, aesthetic and social benefits of retaining them. Accordingly, I'd encourage councillors to consider amending the officer's recommendation disregarding the need for further community consultation. And that was a little bit hard for me to write because I'm a great believer in community consultation. We've heard tonight about community consultation, but I think the facts speak for themselves. So not going out to the community for further consultation is what I would recommend. So I'd ask that they just adopt the recommendation B, I think it's 1B, and it states, retain the trees as they are, but remove the offending roots at an initial cost of approximately $62,000 with an ongoing approximate cost of $30,000 every 3 years. That's 10 grand a year. This represents cost of responsibly caring for an established asset, as council does with all its assets, while preserving the rich streetscape and healthy, attractive environment for the community now and into the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr Beach. Any questions, councillors, of Mr Beach? Councillor Coleman.
Thanks, Madam President. Probably a question for staff. Is it viable that we trim those trees every 12 to 18 months rather than 3 yearly? And is it a viable option that we trim those roots every 3 years, is one question. And number two, is Mr Beach representing Harvey Main Street, because it was a Harvey Main Street project?
Today I'm not representing Harvey Main Street, but I was working with Harvey Main Street when we did the streetscape with the underground power, the establishment of the trees and the signage and everything else. But I'm speaking here as a person that's lived in Harvey since 1978, and I think you know my passion for the place.
Thank you, Mr Beach. Mr Kettner, are you able to respond? Thank you.
The question relates to the period between repairing, whether it's a shorter period or longer period. Probably the longer period is better because the major element of the cost is the reinstatement of the road, and the further you can separate those reinstatements, the less the overall cost is going to be, or the average cost per year. So I'd recommend rather further apart than closer together.
Thank you. My question was more aimed at, if we did it more often, would we have to interrupt the road, or would it be within the tree planting area itself?
Through the chair, that would be in the road, because that's where the humps are caused by the roots encroaching into the road. If they're off the road, that wouldn't be an issue. So the costs are related to repairing the road and reinstatement of the road. And yes, that gets done out of hours, and that's where the extra cost lies as well.
Thank you. Any other deputations from the floor? Thank you. I have one that from Mrs. Sheila Ferguson, who resides in Australind and has requested the following deputation be read by myself in relation to item 10, confirmation of minutes. And I read, because of the time and location of the December council meeting, I am unable to attend and ask that this be read to the meeting as a deputation relating to item 10, confirmation of minutes, item 7, public question time, and if it is not prohibited by the Local Government Act or regulations, that it is published in the minutes. My deputation is about the response to my question on item 17.1.1 at the November council meeting. No adequate reason was given for not making clear and public what council was being asked to vote on. It is clear from the minutes that council was asked to vote on whether or not to progress the sale or subdivision of lot 210 Mulgara Street. The debate was held behind closed doors because it was commercial in confidence, with minimal information made public. While parts of the agenda item and valuation report may have been confidential, they could have been made public with redactions if necessary. The debate on the significant matter of selling off a major Shire asset would have been open and transparent, and the public kept properly informed. It is disappointing that council did not inform or involve the public in any way in the decision on whether or not to sell this major public asset. It would have demonstrated commitment to transparent and accountable governance and enhanced public confidence in council and the decision-making process. As it is, it appears the administration uses commercial in confidence as justification for restricting the flow of information to the public. In the recent past, after the Shire had refused an FOI request relating to another matter that was dealt with behind closed doors for the same reason, it was determined that the Shire's decision to refuse access was not justified. See Office of the Information Commissioner, reference F for Foxtrot 2021500, and Shire of Harvey, reference C for Charlie 173-00001. Dated the 10th of May 2023. My deputation is to ask all councillors to scrutinise the reasons given by Shire officers for items being taken behind closed doors, particularly when it is because of commercial in confidence, and to ensure that as much debate and information as possible is made public before matters are voted on. Thank you. All right, we will now move into announcements by presiding member or CEO without discussion. May I acknowledge that we have the Honourable Michelle Boyland, MLC, in the chambers this afternoon. Welcome, Michelle, back to the chambers. Thank you. And also, may we welcome our new Director Infrastructure Services, Mr Craig Yardley, who commenced with the Shire only yesterday. Acknowledge this is the Acting Director, Mr Kevin Kettner's last meeting. He's keeping us up to date on hours and minutes and seconds to go, and the end of his contract with the Shire. So on behalf of Council, we wish to welcome Mr Yardley to his new position, and thank you, Mr Kettner, for your outstanding service as the Acting Director of Infrastructure Services, and we wish you all the very best in your future endeavours. Thank you. CEO, is there anything? All right. Okay, councillors, let's get into it. So, confirmation of minutes. We have an officer's recommendation here that the minutes of the council meeting held on Tuesday the 25th of November as printed be confirmed as a true and correct record. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Bromham, thank you. A seconder, Councillor McCarthy. Any discussion? I'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Thank you. I move to the receipt of minutes for the Audit Committee held on the 2nd of December 2025. I'll have a mover, please. Councillor Morley. A seconder. Councillor Dickinson. I believe, Councillor Bromham, you have an amendment.
Yeah, thank you through the Chair. I move an amendment to 8.2.1 Annual Report 24-25. The amendment is to replace the wording, the facility is scheduled for a significant pool shell refurbishment in 2026, which will ensure the pool's long-term viability, and enhance the user experience with the following. The facility is scheduled for investigation works in 2026 to consider the viability of the pool's structure, with the decisions relating to funding and remedial works to be considered by council. My reason for this is to ensure the wording reflects the present facts prior to any investigation and council decision.
Thank you, Councillor Bromham. Do I have a seconder for Councillor Bromham's amendment? Councillor Dickinson, thank you. Councillor Bromham, do you wish to speak to your amendment?
Yeah, only to say that I think it's important in any council document that we deal with facts. So this isn't to say we're not going to do anything in the pool, or we're going to do anything to the or anything about the pool's future. What this is about is putting the horse before the cart. We do the investigation, we understand the costs, and then we can make decisions that are rational and affordable for the Shire. So that's the reason I put this through. If I read this document and I was moving to Harvey tomorrow, I would think that pool was going to be there forever. And I just think we need to make sure that what we write is what we're actually doing. And at this stage, before an investigation is completed, we really don't know.
Thank you, Councillor Bromham. Councillor Dickinson as a seconder. Is there any speaker against the amendment? Councillor Coleman.
Thanks, Madam President. Thinking on my feet here, because I wasn't aware of this, the viability of a 50-metre swimming pool in Harvey is without doubt. It is the only 50-metre major facility in the Shire, and we have people coming from all around to use it. We have swimming carnivals, we have school groups, and we use it. Now, this refurbishment has been on the books for several years now, and so I think to give an indication to the community that we'll consider the viability of the pool in the future, I think is a scare tactic that will be taken up by the community. The pool is necessary to the community. I'm not suggesting that it doesn't need remediation, but for us to consider investigative works, then bring a report back to council, then let's go out and do something else, is going to close the pool for well over the 12 months that we would expect it to be as a maximum. So I'd like to think that the pool shell refurbishment in 2026, which we've been talking about for quite some years, will go ahead without considering the viability of the pool.
Speaker for the amendment? Any speaker? Councillor Dickinson.
I support the amendment because I think that in order for us to make an informed decision on the viability of the pool, we need to know exactly what is involved in the remediation of the pool, and also I think the community would expect us to do that before we actually just make the decision on the future of the pool. I think that this wording clarifies that more, and so I support the motion.
Speaker against? Speaker for? Councillor Bromham, do you want to sum up?
The only reason I've moved this is I think we talk about transparency and clarity, and that's what we should be providing the community with. It doesn't say what we're going to do. We've no decisions been made, but it says we will ensure as a council that we do a thorough investigation and spend ratepayers' money wisely.
Okay, councillors, we'll put this amendment to the vote. It requires an absolute majority. Yep, so we'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Note 1 against. That is carried. 8-1. Thank you. Okay, we're now voting on the substantive, that the minutes of the Audit Committee meeting held on Tuesday the 2nd of December be received and the recommendations therein adopted with the amendment in relation to the pool. I've got councillor Morley has moved that. Do you wish to? Yes. Yeah. Councillor Morley, did you wish to speak to that? Councillor Dickinson? Requires an absolute majority. Are any other speakers for or against? No, we'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Against? One against. Thank you, councillors. Where am I up to? That's not the audit, that's the local emergency. Okay, councillors, we now move to the Local Emergency Management Committee meeting minutes. The recommendation is that the minutes of the, if we can change that please to the Local Emergency Management Committee meeting held on Monday the 8th of December 2025 as printed be received. Do I have a mover for that please? Councillor Carboni, thank you. A seconder? Councillor Bromham. Likely to be any discussion? I'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Thank you. All right, councillors, I wish to put forth a procedural motion that item 12.3.1, the proposed structure plan lot 401 Raymond Road, Rowlands, be brought forward as the first item to be heard and then followed by the remainder of the agenda. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Morley. Likely to be any discussion, councillors? We'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Thank you, councillors. That brings us to item 12.3.1, the proposed structure plan for lot 401 Raymond Road. We require a simple majority. We have the officer's recommendation here. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Bromham, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hitchcock, thank you. Councillor Bromham, do you wish to speak to it, please?
Thank you, Madam President. Through the chair, there's a lot of stuff about sewerage and housing, affordable housing. To me, these are all red herrings in relation to this. What we're really talking about here is amenity, and that is because we're looking at the proper planning processes and following them. So, looking at amenity, public open space and traffic management in the area and the increase in traffic that would be created by this subdivision without any real essence in the development as in the East Treendale. I believe that this would be detrimental to the community of Meadow Landing. Personally, if I'm standing on one block and looking across the road at all those houses and I was living there, I wouldn't be very pleased. So I think from a point of view of amenity, we should be backing the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Hitchcock.
Okay. First of all, I trust that the Shire staff have conducted their assessment with orderly and proper planning. When this proposal was first brought to Council during a concept forum, it was not met with a significant amount of support, as has been suggested. In fact, there was much discussion around the proposed density. As we've seen from previous deputations, the vision for the estate was a semi-rural estate featuring lots of 2,000 and 4,000 square metres. We've also seen an indicative plan that seamlessly integrates with the existing community. The current proposal has been created because the developer believes that they need to connect to the sewer system in Treendale at, according to them, a considerable financial burden. However, the government sewer policy 2019 states that in some instances on-site systems are an acceptable method of servicing for low-density urban areas. The developed portion of Meadow Landing is low density and has on-site effluent disposal systems, and it is my understanding that the development to the eastern side of Meadow Landing will be larger lots with on-site systems as well. The officer's recommendation to create a proposal with R2.5 and R5 coding would align with this. The current proposal leans heavily on the WAPC's Livable Neighbourhoods initiative. The principal aim is to provide for an urban structure of walkable neighbourhoods clustering to form towns of compatible mixed uses in order to reduce car dependence for access to employment, retail and community facilities. The proposed development is not compatible with the rest of the subdivision at all. The fact that there is no bus service, no footpaths and no safe way to cross Forest Highway does not reduce car dependence. Aim 3 is to foster a sense of community and strong local identity and sense of place in neighbourhoods and towns. The existing estate has a strong local identity and sense of place because the current lots are all rural aspect, low density lots. The proposed development will potentially erode that local identity and sense of place. Aim 8 is to provide a variety of lot sizes and housing types to cater for diverse housing needs of the community at a density that can ultimately support the provision of local services. The proposed development will require substantial infrastructure upgrades to accommodate a doubling of the current population within the estate, and many of the service providers have not confirmed that they can achieve that. According to the Livable Neighbourhoods policy, it includes a degree of flexibility to provide the opportunity to achieve the best design for individual circumstances. The proposed development is not aligned with the current amenity of the estate. However, the officer's recommendation would be. The current proposal states that traffic generated by the proposed LSP is not expected to result in an increased crash risk for the adjacent road network. However, an increase of 1,528 daily trips is a significant burden to the intersections of Forest Highway and Raymond Road, which is notorious for accidents, not to mention the impact on Ransom Drive as the only entry and exit to the estate. Therefore, the approximately 475 extra residents that the proposed development would bring would need to use road transport, putting further strain on existing infrastructure and intersections. However, the officer's recommendation of low-density lots with that strain is significantly lessened. Meadow Landing is serviced by Western Power's underground power supply. The report in a proposal by WML Consulting Engineers states that the capacity of this existing system is unknown at this stage and cannot be confirmed until such time as either a design information package is requested from Western Power or Western Power are engaged to undertake a feasibility study. The developer does not know if the existing system can handle the extra burden of 191 high-density lots. The officer's recommendation of low-density lots would put much less strain on existing networks. Communication between Water Corporation and WML in the report states that reticulated water is currently available to the subject area, but the water scheme planning for the area did not consider the proposed high density that this proposal is considering. Upgrading of the current system may be required to prevent existing customers from being affected by the proposed development. The Water Corporation will need to undertake a planning review to determine what upgrades to their system may be required. Once again, the developer does not know if the existing system can handle the extra burden of 191 high-density lots. Again, the officer's recommendation of low-density lots would put much less strain on existing networks. The noise impact assessment, based on State Planning Policy number 5.4 Road and Rail Noise, notes that it is evident the outdoor noise target will be exceeded at some lots. The requirement of notification on titles warning future buyers about noise exposure effectively admits that the development does not meet contemporary amenity expectations. The officer's recommendation may mean that fewer lots, if any, would exceed noise targets. The representative for the development mentioned Objective 11 of our council plan, which is to increase access to diverse and affordable housing. However, the strategic initiatives actually refer to advocating Shire, state and federal managed land be used for affordable housing and aged care. Our council plan does not have a direct initiative regarding private developments. In fact, the priorities for people living in rural South, which is where this proposed development is, were sporting and recreation facilities, local roads and footpaths, trails and cycleways, not affordable housing. The current proposal received 13 supportive submissions, 12 of which were associated with real estate, land valuers, mortgage brokers or building companies who clearly have vested interests. By comparison, 174 objections were received. The community does not want the current proposed development. The officer's recommendation to create a subdivision of R2.5 and R5 lots has already been accepted in principle by the community. The representative for the developer has stated that large lots are unsustainable and not in high demand. Livingston Heights is a similar estate to Meadow Landing, and those blocks are in high demand. Houses don't often go on the market in Meadow Landing, but when they do, they are snapped up quickly and for a considerable sum. I acknowledge that there is a housing shortage, but people don't buy their first home in Meadow Landing, they buy their forever home. By supporting the officer's recommendation, you'll allow those who currently live in their forever home to do so without fear of changes to their existing amenity, and you'll allow more people to buy their forever home and free up their existing home for those entering the market.
Thank you, Councillor Hitchcock. Do I have a speaker against? Councillor Carboni.
Thank you, Madam President, and I thank all the presenters today, and I certainly understand the passion and angst and anxiety of the people of Meadow Landing, and I thank them for making the time to come all the way to Harvey at 4 o'clock today, which seems to be a contention with some people that live in Australind. Look, it's a difficult one. This one's probably one of the hardest ones in my 14 years of being on council, and I foreshadow a motion to refuse this proposal. So I'm in essence arguing the same point here. But we also have a duty to the developers of the Shire of Harvey. And the developer of this proposal is a ratepayer of the Shire of Harvey. The reason there's East Trendale, the reason that this proposal's on the table is because private people put their money forward to develop blocks. Indeed, the blocks that you people all live on was from the vision of Bernard Stanley, who I knew very well, and developed that land many years ago. So this officer's recommendation, in essence, just kicks the can down the road. And there's issues about sewerage, and obviously, as you've seen through the report, the strategic plans of this Shire, the changing policies of the state government, that things have changed. And the very likelihood that you're going to get what you've got there now in Meadow Landing is not going to happen. And I've got to point out that this is not a Shire decision. Ultimately, it's the decision of the WA Planning Commission. Now, Mr Earnshaw put up an alternative plan there, and the developer has said on 2 occasions that they don't accept it. They will not pursue it. So I say to councillors here, if they don't pursue it, do we want that land just as a paddock going forward? We don't want any form of housing on that land there going forward when we're screaming for housing going into the future, and what the state government and the Minister for Housing is at. So my view is, look, I can completely understand that it'd be nice to have what was there, and it should have been squared off many years ago, to be quite honest. But zonings have changed. I don't think you'll get the outcome that you hope. And quite frankly, I think to kick this down the road for another 2 years and leave you guys hanging, and not only that, leave the developer hanging as well, or to go through another extended process, us have to go through another advertising process, get community comment again for something that we ultimately have no say over. I think we should just refuse it now and send it to the WA Planning Commission and let them make the decision.
Thank you, Councillor Carboni. Do I have a speaker for? Councillor McCarthy.
I just wanted to put forward that there are people out there that are looking for larger blocks. Not everybody's looking for a tiny little block. Be it they may not be first homeowners, they're probably second and third homeowners, but their home that they move from would then be available for affordable housing for those for first homeowners.
Thank you, Councillor McCarthy. Do I have a speaker against? Councillor Morley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm speaking against Councillor Carboni's amended motion.
No, just point of order, we're not addressing the foreshadowed motion at the moment, so we're just speaking to the officer's recommendation. You like to speak for? Over to you, Councillor
My
Moore.
apologies, Madam Chair. This matter is one of great significance to the Harvey Shire, to Mr Gartrell, and equally important to the community of Meadow Landings in Rowlands. Hence, I've got a little bit to say about it. After extensively reviewing the submissions, the assessment criteria and the developer's position, it's clear that the proponent has asked Council to either approve the proposal in its current form or dismiss it outright, so that the matter may be directly sent to the West Australian Planning Commission to perhaps expedite a favourable consideration. In effect, this request attempts to move the decision-making beyond Council and completely into the hands of the State Planning Commission. I, however, support the officer's recommendation. The officer's analysis is balanced, evidence-based and consistent with our statutory planning responsibilities. It ensures that Council's position is clear, defensible and guided by sound planning principles rather than pressure to speed up an outcome that may not fully align with the community expectations, environmental considerations or the long-term strategic direction of the Shire. By adopting the officer's recommendations, we support proper process, uphold the integrity of local decision-making and ensure that, should the matter proceed to the State, Council's views and the community's concerns are formally and accurately represented. Further, it is my view that the development proposal in its current form is incompatible with the established and intended low-density residential character of Meadow Landing Estate, generates unacceptable traffic and road safety impacts, particularly on Warburton Street and Raymond Road Forest Highway interface, fails to provide adequate functional public open space with significant portions constrained by drainage basins and the gas pipeline easement. It lacks confirmed essential servicing capacity, including water supply upgrades and drainage management consistent with agency requirements. It does not sufficiently address environmental and groundwater constraints, including matters raised by DBCA and DWER. It fails to align with the livable neighbourhoods and local planning strategy regarding density, integration and neighbourhood transition, and presents unreasonable impacts on the amenity, privacy, safety and cohesion of the existing residential community. I believe any development should demonstrate compatibility with the Shire's strategic planning framework and neighbourhood character, include updated and independently reviewed traffic impact modelling, incorporating current traffic volumes and the effects of the Wadandi Drive extension, provide a compliant network of usable public open space not reliant on drainage or restricted land, present a confirmed servicing strategy from relevant agencies, including potable water, supply, drainage, wastewater and power, include a comprehensive environmental and fauna assessment, and deliver an appropriate transition in density and built form that reflects the Meadow Landing context and the expectations previously set for this location. My reasonings and concerns reflect overwhelming community feedback, significant state agency concerns, unresolved technical constraints and the Shire Officer's professional assessment. I ask that fellow councillors support this position so that our response remains responsible, transparent and aligned with our obligations under the planning framework. I acknowledge the professionalism of the developer's consultant and the complexity of the issues raised. However, after reviewing the submissions alongside the officer's report, the officer's recommendation is robust, justified and necessary to ensure orderly and proper planning. The purpose of a structure plan, I believe, is to show that land can be developed in a manner consistent with state policy, environmental constraints, servicing requirements and community outcomes. The proposal does not provide, in my opinion, sufficient evidence that the development can proceed at the proposed density without unacceptable risks, uncertainty or policy conflict. Officers are obligated to base recommendations on verifiable data, written agency advice and compliance with state planning instruments, not verbal assurances or speculative viability arguments. In this context, the officer's report provides a more defensible planning position. The submission suggests that rezoning the land from R5 to urban development automatically justifies the proposed density. I may be interpreting the information wrong, but I believe that the urban development zone defers density decisions to a future structure plan, requires demonstration that proposed densities are compatible with servicing environment and planning policy, and does not guarantee any particular density outcome. And urban development zoning does not override state planning controls, government sewerage policy, environmental constraints, transport thresholds, community expectations, or site limitations. The officer's recommendation is entirely consistent with local planning scheme 2 and simply applies the correct tests, part of which include planning assessments considering potential impacts such as environmental, social, economic, or governance effects, and often require mitigation measures for issues like noise, dust, or drainage. Amendments or major developments must be consistent with the local planning strategy for the area, which sets the long-term strategic direction for land use, population growth and development. Has the proponent shown that the site could support the proposed density in a manner consistent with state and local policy? At present, I believe the answer to that is no. While the proponent relies heavily on livable neighbourhoods, this is a performance-based policy that must be read together with environmental, infrastructure and servicing constraints. I do not believe livable neighbourhoods cannot be used to justify densities that conflict with sewer-sensitive area requirements, are not supported by servicing agencies, cannot meet groundwater separation standards, present unresolved drainage or fill impacts, and fail to achieve orderly and proper planning. In fact, it's my view that livable neighbourhood encourages variety of lot sizes where feasible and appropriate, housing affordability where consistent with site capacity, efficient land use, not at the expense of environmental or infrastructure compliance, and the officer's recommendation correctly applies livable neighbourhoods with the real constraints of the site. While housing affordability is a critical Shire priority and acknowledged in the council plan, affordability alone cannot override state policy, environmental risk or servicing requirements. In fact, approving a structure plan that is inconsistent with policy risks West Australian Planning Commission refusal, delays land release, increases uncertainty for the community, and could result in appeals, resubmissions or redesigns that further delay the outcome. A clear defensible pathway to achieving compliant residential supporting the officer's recommendation provides a clear defensible pathway to achieving compliant residential development, a framework that the West Australian Planning Commission can support, and certainty for the landowner, Mr Gartrell, about what is required to progress. The officer's recommendation responds appropriately to significant community concerns regarding density, traffic, drainage, rural residential character, bushfire interface, environmental impacts and amenity. I think to ensure development is compatible with the existing area, not imposed without sufficient technical justification, local planning must balance state and local policy, maintain community confidence, importantly, ensure development transitions appropriately, and avoid incompatible outcomes. The officer's report demonstrates this balance. Council has two primary obligations: ensure decisions are based on planning merit, not commercial viability, provide the West Australian Planning Commission with a defensible, policy-aligned recommendation. The West Australian Planning Commission should assess the structural plan against state planning framework, service capability, policy compliance, environmental constraints and site suitability. If the council were to support a structure plan that is not properly substantiated, it may be refused by the West Australian Planning Commission, be returned in any case for further modification, and delay the development far longer than necessary. Supporting the officer's recommendation protects the proponent from progressing a plan that is unlikely to be approved. The officer's recommendation is not a deemed refusal. The submission characterises the officer's recommendation as sterilising the land or as a de facto refusal is completely inaccurate. The recommendation does not prevent residential development on the site, does not preclude future structure planning, simply requires a lower density that is evidence-based, policy compliant, consistent with site constraints and defensible at a West Australian Planning Commission level. I again reiterate that I support the officer's recommendation. It is technically sound, policy aligned, consistent with orderly proper planning, responsive to community concerns, defensible at a state level, and the safest pathway towards enabling appropriately scaled residential development at Lot 401. My views are not about being anti-development. They are about ensuring development is orderly, safe, serviced and compatible with the community and planning framework. Our planning officers have completed a disciplined and methodological assessment. Sorry for that.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. I would suggest the members' time's expired.
Yeah, if we can start winding up, Councillor
Fine.
Morley.
In
Thank you.
final, I reiterate the officers are not rejecting the development, only this version of it. Any mistake we allow today will be lived with permanently by the residents of Meadow Landing and Rowlands. That's enough for me to say. My point has been put across. I recommend we follow the officer's recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Morley. Do I have a speaker against? Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Madam President, and I concur with Councillor Morley's dissertation in that we've heard lots of conversations about the sewerage, but I believe the issue here is about the density of the housing. There's a negative effect on existing amenities in the area if this plan gets approved. The increased traffic congestion would be an absolute nightmare. There's insufficient public open space to support such a high concentration of lots. It won't solve the affordable housing. Our members of the public will quite agree with you there, and thank you for coming along. My concern is that if we accept the officer's recommendation, this can go around as a whirlpool for the next 12 months and still come back here with heads butted and no resolution. That's my concern. I totally acknowledge all of the negativity from the community, and I concur with most of it, but I'm also concerned that this will create such a division that it will end up back here in 12 months' time, and council will still have to make a recommendation, because we can't approve this. We can neither approve it nor reject it. We can only recommend a way forward to the State Planning Commission. So for that reason, I would recommend that we refuse the officer's recommendation, because I'd like to see this not go round in a whirlpool for the next 12 months. I'd like to see your residences resolved. I'd like to see security of your housing, of your livable neighbourhoods. So I would like to see council refuse to accept this proposal, officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman. I have a question for Mr Hughes, if I may. Just to, if possible, give us some idea or outline on the timing. Should the officer's recommendation be supported by council? What sort of timing are we looking at before it comes back to council?
Thank you, Madam President, through you. So this could progress as early as next week. We'd request a formal response from the applicant that they do wish or do not wish to modify their application. The Shire would then move to carry out a public consultation or advertisement. That's 42 days. That's 42 calendar days. After which then the Shire officers have 60 days to carry out an assessment, and that will result in a report back to council. And if that happens next week, or commences next week, that could be March 2026.
Thank you, Mr Hughes. Do we have a speaker for? A speaker against? A speaker for? I'd like to speak for. and I support the officer's recommendation. And I say, councillors, our role here today is not to approve, as Councillor Coleman and Councillor Carboni has indicated, or reject the structure plan, but rather make a recommendation to the WAPC as to whether it should be supported, not supported, or council can request modifications to address issues raised in the submission. So I speak today, as I said, in favour of the staff's recommendation. Whilst I'll acknowledge the intent to support growth and the current climate of housing shortages or the provision of affordable housing, I'm also cognisant of our role as local government to deliver good planning decisions. Should this go through in its current form, I don't believe this represents proper and orderly planning. I have several concerns regarding key aspects of this plan, and most of the councillors that have spoken for the officer's recommendation have touched on this, but specifically for me, it's the residential density, the design and usability of the public open space, the traffic impacts, and the overall protection of the local amenity. And I believe in its current form, the plan does not adequately address these issues, and therefore I believe it requires further modification. I concur with the staff's comment that the proposal in its current form would not meet the objectives of the livable neighbourhoods, as this would create a pocket of high density development within a low density area. Livable neighbourhoods clearly states that new developments should not diminish the local character and amenity of existing developments. The proposed density levels are disproportionately high compared with the established character of Meadow Landing. This inconsistency risks creating the abrupt transition between built forms, thereby adversely affecting the visual amenity, privacy, and neighbourhood cohesion. I do not believe the planned road on the eastern boundary is a sufficient or suitable transition from the planned high-density build to the already well-established Meadow Landing community. I consider the road as a form of buffer would not sufficiently mitigate the detrimental impacts on the amenity and the living quality of the existing residents. I would like to see consideration given to a form of graduated density transition with some form of tapering densities toward closer to the existing low density residential areas. This type of design will go towards balancing the benefits of integration against any significant adverse effects that may occur in areas that were built under a completely different philosophy. An example of this tapering effect is in Galway Green, where larger residential blocks border the low-density areas of Settlers Estate. Outdoor spaces are important and should be designed with people in mind, offering opportunities for people to meet, socialise and bring vitality and identity to a place. Although the plan allocates a nominal quantity of public open space, the quality and usability of these areas appear limited. Public open space should be functional and be able to accommodate a range of passive and active uses, and I don't believe this is achieved within the current plan. The officer's report has identified shortfalls in the three areas identified as public open space, either through the implications of a designated easement for services or through the structures of the detention basins, which may include features such as retaining walls or the planting of nutrient-removing plant species and the like, thereby considered unusable for recreational purposes and cannot be considered towards the public open space requirements. Traffic. As the anticipated number of daily vehicle movements is 20 times greater than the number of current vehicle movements, it is highly likely that the traffic will have a significant impact on the amenity of the existing residents, with potential increased interaction between pedestrians and cyclists. It is assumed that Warburton Street will be utilised by 90% of the vehicles for access and egress. This equates to an estimated 1,375 vehicle movements per day, utilising a road that currently services 8 residents or approximately 64 vehicle movements per day. So in short, this significant increase in traffic volumes will likely have a significant impact on the safety of pedestrians, cyclists, road users and the amenity of the area. I also note that a total of 187 public submissions were received, with a total of 174 objections and 13 in support. So I'd like to take this opportunity to commend the Meadow Landing community residents for their respectful and well-organised and informed advocacy in regards to this item. Planning decisions need to be made on planning grounds. I acknowledge the applicant's request for either a yes or no today. However, I'm not supportive of this, as I believe saying no outright is not a considered decision of council. So today, councillors, I ask you to support the officer's recommendation and allow this process to be undertaken with due regard, and I believe in a relatively timely fashion, and in due regard given to the planning issues raised and the concerns of the residents. Do I have any speaker against? Any speakers for? Councillor Bronwyn?
Thank you, Madam President. Being a councillor is a hard gig sometimes. It's about leadership. It's about making decisions, and sometimes they're hard ones. But I'm kind of thriving in that environment. I don't like the idea of passing it on to someone else. I think we should stand up as a council and say what is needed at a particular time. So we have a professional staff, as has been outlined, who have given a fantastic report. They should be commended on that. And I think as a council, we should understand when we have great staff like we do, that we should back them on this type of issue, because it was a very measured and very well-written report that covered all the areas that have been covered by the other councillors. Obviously, did a lot more homework than I did. What I'd like to do is go to the legislation, because I think that's the important place to go to when you're talking about this type of thing. And I looked at the Health Act that basically drove us back to look at our own, said, please go and have a look at your own policies and procedures. I looked at the Water Act, which said the Minister is the one who would designate if there need to be a sewerage, but that's only if the density is high enough for that to occur. And I also looked at our code's Part 5, 5.1 context and the objective, and that states to ensure residential development meets community expectations regarding appearance, use and density. And it goes on to say to ensure designs respond to the natural and built features of the local context. That's what we're doing today by supporting our staff's recommendation. So, good, orderly planning. That is what we're about to do today by supporting this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Bronwyn. Okay, councillors, we shall put this one to the vote. All those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Okay, count. 1, 2, 3, 6 against. 3 against. That is carried. Thank you, councillors. You're welcome to remain in the chambers if you wish, or I can give you 5 minutes to leave. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Now we'll get back onto the agenda. We'll start with the CEO's reports. 12.1.1 Delegation Review 2025. We have an officer's recommendation requires an absolute majority. Do I have a mover for this? Councillor Carboni. Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Morley. Likely to be any discussion? Happy? Councillor Morley? No. I'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Carried by absolute majority, 9-0. Thank you. Item 12.1.2, Harvey Land for Aged and Affordable Housing. We have an officer's recommendation. Do I have a mover for this? Councillor Bromham. A seconder? Councillor Coleman. Councillor Bromham, you wish to speak to this?
Just to say, I think this will be a great thing for Harvey in the future.
Councillor Coleman, since you initiated this a long while ago.
Did, thank you. And one of the things I wanted to say was thank you to the staff for putting so much information into this and so much work into it. It's not only so needed, we've already got a number of agencies looking to get housing to help us throughout the Shire. So this is a win-win-win for everybody if this is supported. So again, thank you to the staff.
Any speakers against? Speaker for? I reiterate Councillor Coleman's comments in relation to the effort put in by the CEO and staff in regards to this report. This is a fantastic outcome, and it will be great to see this land that sits vacant actually be activated and put to a good use. So if there's no further discussion, Councillor Bromham, you wish to sum up on anything? All right, let's put this one to the vote. Councillors, all those in favour? Carried 9-0. Thank you. Item 12.1.3, the Bunbury Geograph Group of Councils. Do I have a mover for this one? I'm Councillor Dickinson. Thank you. A seconder? I'm happy to second this one. Thank you. Councillor Dickinson, did you wish to speak? I will say that there has always been some discussion earlier around the value of this Bunbury Geograph group of councils. I believe that moving forward with all the development that's happening within our region, it would be of benefit to us to be part of a group of local governments that are able to advocate in strength. So I therefore support this this officer's recommendation. Is there any speakers against? No. Councillor Dickinson, did you wish to sum up on anything?
Thank you, Shire President. I just concur with you that I think that there's going to always be some issues that our neighbouring local governments and us are going to have to deal with, and I think that this gives us a good platform to advocate on a stronger level than if we were to do it independently. So I think that it's a organisation that we probably should give a lot more due consideration to in the future for advocate avenue. Thank you.
Okay, councillors, we'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Thank you, councillors. We're moving to infrastructure services, 12.2.1. We have an officer's recommendation here in regards to the Uduck Road plain trees. Do I have a move?
I'll foreshadow.
Foreshadow. Do we have a mover first? Councillor Dickinson. A seconder, Councillor Coleman. Councillor Dickinson, did you wish to speak?
Thank you. Yes. I have heard on numerous occasions as I walk down the street or even, just talking to residents, fors and against for the trees. And I think in order for us to make a more informed decision as to the long-term management of the trees, that it would be advisable to get community consultation so that we are able to make a more informed decision down the track. I do acknowledge former Councillor Beech's deputation tonight in that he would just like it to be processed, but I think that we need to do due diligence, and I think this will enable us to do that.
Councillor Coleman as a seconder.
Thanks, Madam President. I guess a question in there as well, if I may. What constitutes community consultation? So are we talking the businesses in the main street? Are we talking the residents of Harvey Town? How long are we talking and how are we going to do it? Can I get that clarified before I go further, please?
Can I call through the Manager of Marketing and Public Relations to give an outline of a proposed consultation process for this project? Thanks.
We see this being a survey to all Harvey District area ratepayers. So that includes businesses as well, so business owners. And quite honestly, we would probably allow about 3 weeks, 21 days, and provide a report back to council after that.
Follow-up question?
Thank you. So it would be like a paper survey to people that are, in the 80s and not on Facebook, et cetera, or how?
So as we always do with our consultation processes, we put things on the website, on social media. Paper copies are also made available through our various libraries, rec centres, administration centres as well. We could look at a mail out, but that's quite expensive. Council would like to spend that money. We would have to have a look at the budget for that. But yeah, we would have paper copies always. And I have to say that we've had great results from paper copies in the libraries and the rec centres in particular.
Thank you, Madam President, because as Councillor Dickinson said, even in the same shop, two owners will have opposing views whether to keep the trees or not. So if it's a short survey, that'd be great, to get to say that we've actually listened to people, which is what our motto is. But yeah, so that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you. And Speaker against, Councillor Carboni.
Well, I might just withdraw the alternative motion, move an amendment if that's okay.
Yes.
Might make it easier. So the amendment's just to delete 1A, C and 2. That's an amendment, isn't it? Yeah, just to retain the trees, yeah.
Councillor Carboni, I would suggest that we'd still need to conduct community consultation because that is included in dot point 1. So it may not be a workable amendment.
All right. Go back to an alternative motion then.
Well,
All right, I'll speak against.
You're going to speak against, and you have indicated you're going to foreshadow an alternate. So over to you, Councillor Carboni.
Yeah, I don't think we need to go to community consultation by any means. With these, when we do go to community consultation, really how many replies do we get in proportion to what populations in Harvey? You might get a couple of hundred people respond with thousands in population. So these trees have been here forever and a day. They're not that big of a problem. I drive through there quite often. I think they're a beautiful addition in the main street of Harvey. I don't think we need to waste the money and go to community consultation. It's just pointless, I think.
And what is your foreshadowed?
My foreshadowed motion will be just 1B to retain the trees.
And remove the community consultation.
Yep. Retain the trees, remove all the rest. Yes. B and 2.
Do you have a question, Councillor Coleman? Yes. While they're
Thanks,
working
Madam.
on that.
Yep, no, just an indication perhaps of the community consultation for about 3 weeks. What sort of costing are we looking at?
I'll go to our manager, media.
So if we're talking about a paper mail out to letterboxes, we'd probably look at about okay. So really it would be an in-house cost through our various platforms.
So no real cost?
No real cost apart from staff time and effort. And and then developing the report for council and all the rest.
Right, thank you.
No worries. Thank you.
Councillor Dickinson, did you have a question? As you were the mover, but I'll allow a question if you have one.
No, I don't, because I was a bit confused by the foreshadowed motion, but that's been clarified. Thank you.
All good. Okay. Do I have a speaker for? I think that's where I'm at the moment. For the officer's recommendation. I'll speak for it in the fact that at the community meeting held in Harvey, this issue came to light, which actually quite surprised me, came from left field, and it had a relatively good amount of support to have the trees removed from Uduck Road, which blindsided me and it surprised me. So I'm quite supportive of it going out to get to confirm, I suppose, the consensus that was shown at the community meeting in Harvey in relation to the trees being removed. So I'm interested to see if it does garner that support through our community consultation. So I'm quite happy to support the officer's recommendation as is. Do I have a speaker against? A question, Councillor Holly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just wondering about the cost of which is not in here, the cost of clean-up of these trees. As a person that I am with no legs, they are quite dangerous and can be quite dangerous, but be it summer or winter with leaves that are falling around and that sort of thing. So it's just maybe we could look at a cost of clean-up more regularly.
The maintenance.
Than doing any one of these extremes.
Through the CEO, through the acting director, through to maybe Mr. I'll leave that up to you, who you would like to direct that to. Mr. Mr Faber, you've been called up.
Thank you, Madam President. At the moment, I don't have an actual cost. We do undertake maintenance where we do some clean-up of the leaves and the likes through that period of the fall. But I would have to take that on notice to get a cost on what we're putting out at the moment.
Thank you, Mr Faber. Speaker against, councillor Bromham.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President, through the chair. Look, I concur with what former councillor Paul Beach was saying earlier. I think these trees add to the aesthetic appeal of the main road within Harvey. I go down there often on my motorbike. The lumps on the road, the routes do put in place occasionally, you know, to move, they slow me down. So they become a much more pedestrian-friendly location. So otherwise I'd be going through there at 80 kilometres an hour, you know. So sometimes I do. But I just think when you look at the trees, I think they're a fantastic asset to the main street in Harvey, and it'd be really boring if you took them out. I mean, I can imagine it without them and no shade in summer. I mean, I wouldn't want to be there. And we talk about making this a place where people can come and visit. Well, what do people come and visit? They don't come and visit towns with no trees. In fact, anywhere you look in the world and you find trees, you find people with money, but you don't find them where there's no trees. So the road itself, as I said, the bumps, they slow me down. So that's pretty good. I think it's a good pedestrian area. Yeah, there are problems with the trees and the roads, but they are manageable. I mean, everything we have has issues. And quite frankly, I can imagine I remember Hugh Duck Road be a really boring place to look down if we didn't have trees there. So you tell me, you know, what you want, a boring town or something that draws people in. And and thank you, Paul, for coming and giving your presentation. I found that illuminating, and you've got right on the right money as far as I'm concerned.
Speaker for, speaker against. Yep, councillor Morley, question.
Through the chair, just as a off the beaten track, and I understand people trip over and all those sorts of things. What's the cost of putting another crosswalk in up near the IGAs and having people, the crosswalks are crosswalks, they're there for people to walk across the road. Why not have the status quo and put in another crosswalk up the other end of the street of the business area? Surely to goodness, and I defer to our experts, surely to goodness that would be a much less costly exercise and we still maintain our beautiful trees. But just a thought process.
Thank you. Is that a rhetorical question?
I'll put a question. If you do conduct a survey, 300 people come back and say, yeah, knock the trees down, and then 3,000 other people realise the trees are gone and there's a big uproar, what then?
Sorry, I missed that question. I was distracted.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. I thought you were the presiding member.
I am the presiding member. Thank you very much. Point of order, councillor Caboni. I am the presiding member.
My question was, if we do this consultation and 300 people come back and say, clear the trees, and then the rest of the community, the other 3,000, realise they're gone and there's a big uproar, what do we do then?
Well, that's a decision of council at the time. Simple as that. Okay, I think we've debated this one long enough. I can recall that Councillor Dickinson actually moved the officer's recommendation. Did you wish to close the debate, Councillor Dickinson?
No, yes. I think there is going to be some very robust discussion regards trees. There's always people that are for trees and there's always people against trees. And they do add to the amenity of the location. And there's nothing worse, and I'm thinking when I'm in Mandurah and you're driving down Pinjarra Road, it is a cement box and a bitumen box, and there is nothing worse. So I'm very appreciative of the trees, but I also acknowledge that there is a cost in having them there, and I think that the community can make an informed decision according to lodging and being involved in the survey, and it will be very interesting to have those results so that we can make a more informed decision. Thank you.
On that note, I'm going to put this one to the vote. All those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Against? 2 against. This is carried 7-2. Thank you, councillors, for that interesting debate. We will now move on to item 12.2.2, which is the Brunswick Agricultural Show Grounds electrical upgrade. Now, what have I got here? I need an absolute majority. Do we have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Bromham. A seconder? Councillor Morley. Okay, we have an amendment in play. Councillor Caboni, you have an amendment?
Yep.
So I'll move that.
Do I have a seconder for this amendment only? That's all we're debating now. A question, Councillor Dickinson?
I'm just wondering, currently the Brunswick Agricultural Society has a partnership agreement with the Shire, and I'm wondering whether the amount that would cover the cost of the generator could be included as part of that partnership instead of actually having this as an amendment.
CEO?
A report was brought to council in regards to the partnership agreements with the Brunswick Agricultural Show, and the funding that was provided was to cover costs that had already been identified and in-kind costs as well. So I would suggest that they are required funds and a commitment from council to fund those particular items, and this would fall outside of that partnership agreement. So the amendment is to provide that figure, I would suggest, on top of the existing partnership agreement.
I have a mover for the amendment, being Councillor Caboni. Can I have a seconder for this one?
Yes.
For the amendment? Okay, the amendment lapses for the want of a seconder. I will go back to the original officer's recommendation. That is moved by Councillor Bromham, seconded by Councillor Morley. Councillor Bromham, did you wish to speak?
I think this becomes a good outcome for all parties in relation to it, and ensures we are not spending more money than we need to with Western Power, who maybe get their figures right next time.
Councillor Morley is the seconder. Okay, any speaker against? Councillor Caboni.
Well, I've got to speak against it now because Shire entered into an agreement with the Brunswick Ag Society and the Harvey Brunswick Football Club to do a lighting and power upgrade. So through circumstances beyond our control, the power upgrade went from $100,000 to $300,000, which was no fault of the footy club or the Ag Society at the time. So the question comes now, when there's peak demand at the showground, who funds the genset and who funds the electrician that's got to tie it into the system and make sure it's tested and tagged? So as of now, because the amendment wasn't supported, the Brunswick Ag Society will be paying for it themselves. And if there's a rodeo in town, they'll be paying for it to get a genset if they can get one. And I believe the Ag Society have been struggling to get gensets of late. So I've got to speak against the motion now because it's left ambiguous who's going to pay for the genset on the showground when there's not projects, bloody events of peak demand.
Question? Can I ask a question?
Just 1 second, I'm just trying to get something clear. Do the question, sorry, Councillor Coleman, thank you.
It's okay. Councillor Carboni, where did the cost of $5,000 come from? Is that like a quoted figure, number one? And number two, you just mentioned that those events are shared not only between the agricultural show but other players as well. So how would that $5,000, for example, be shared if we were able to incorporate that into the partnership, the existing partnership agreements? So if it goes into, for example, your motion was to put it into, to pay for the $5,000 for the council to pay, is that for each $5,000 for the agricultural show and $5,000 for the rodeo and $5,000 for whatever? So I didn't understand your motion very well. Could you perhaps explain that for me?
Well, the motion was drafted by staff.
Councillor Carboni, I might take you off the hook in relation to that one, and through the CEO, through the Acting Director of Infrastructure Services, through to Mr. Faber. That would be great.
Thank you, Madam President. So the $5,000 figure came about that to hire a 350 kVA genset from Coates was $400 basically for the 3 days, but they had a $1,500 transport charge because you can only get them from Perth. So that was the estimated value. Just to answer a couple of councillors' questions, the 350 kVA and peak load is only for the show. So they're the only ones that will draw that amount of power when that requirement's there. The system's been set up to accept that amount of draw, except at the moment we only have 100 amp supply. With the gen set at 350 kVA, our consultants estimated that that will cover all of the show's demands. For other events like the football, the 100 amps more than enough to supply their lights. We had the rodeo just recently and they went well with the 100 amp supply. So it's just about the show, the 1 day of a year where they'll draw that capacity. The rest of the time, at the moment, everyone else is able to use what's currently there.
Question, is it Councillor Coleman? Yep.
Thank you. Through the chair to Mr. Faber. How much would it cost us to get our own Jenny?
They're about $80,000.
Okay, thank you very much.
For that size, they're about that value.
Thank you, Mr. Faber. And I did actually Google that, Councillor Coleman, to get some idea on the cost of a 300 watt kVA or whatever. It's around that price, as Mr. Faber says. Timu, yes. Having the information come to light in relation to the contribution made by the HBL and Ag Society, I wish to move an amendment to the officer's recommendation that, so it'd be a further point that council investigates the, not the purchase, not a purchase, no, investigates the, it's not a purchase. The higher costs and higher and associated costs of providing a generator to power the annual Brunswick Ag Society show commencing in the financial year 26-27.
It's already been done. You just told me.
That was to buy.
That
was to buy. Yeah.
Yes, I know, but if we put it into this notice of motion as an in this motion as an amendment, because at the moment we are not providing any power source, additional power source to, I shouldn't have, I'm debating this, aren't I, at the moment? Wait out, let's just get the wording right. The CEO's, give me 2 seconds, the CEO's got some wording. Have you got a question, councillor Holly?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I was just wondering, in the officer's recommendation, there's a generation hire fee of $6,200. Does that not cover the hire of a generator? I'll just leave it on hold till they come back.
Question, councillor Coleman?
A question, could it be viable that we, oh, it looks like it's going to go up there, increase the partnership agreement by that amount? Yeah.
Thank you for your patience, councillors, and thank you, CEO, for the wording. So we're just tweaking the final bit.
Increases the... Two. Yep.
Okay. Councillors, that is my suggested amendment to the officer's recommendation. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Carboni, thank you. I just think, councillors, that in light of the additional information that's come through via the debate in relation to the community groups that have contributed to this power upgrade for the Brunswick Ag Showgrounds, that this is a fair and equitable plan moving forward for the Brunswick Ag Society. Councillor Carboni, you're the seconder. Did you wish to speak to it? You want to speak against it? You got a question, Councillor McCarthy? Yep.
I just wanted to know whether or not we put a value on that, or that it's re-looked at, reviewed each year after the Brunswick show and what the cost was, or we just don't have a value.
I'm happy to make it administrative to in the commencing and to be reviewed at budget time. Happy with that, administrative? Thank you. Councillor Carboni, you happy with that? Is there going to be any further discussion around this one, councillors? Councillor Holly.
Just about that $6,200.
In the report, question? Councillor, through the CEO, Director, through to Mr Faber. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. That figure is what the show's actually currently spending on their hire of generators. So that's their funding that they're currently contributing towards having generators to allow the show to happen.
It's not budgeted for that from us?
That's correct. Yep. We don't budget for that.
No, thank you.
All right, councillors, let's put this one, if there's no further speakers, debate around this one, let's put this one to the vote, this amendment to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Thank you. That makes part of the substantive. Yes, I know, Councillor Carboni, but, you know, it's our last one for the year, so there we go. Councillor Bromham, you were the mover of the substantive. Did you wish to speak any further to it?
No, I'm happy with the outcome, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Morley? Okay, I'm going to put this one to the vote. We need absolute majority. All those in favour? Carried 9. We got there eventually. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, staff. All righty, we'll move into 12.4.1, payments for November 2025. Officer's recommendation here. Do I have a mover for this? Councillor Holly. Thank you. A seconder? Councillor Morley. Any discussion? We'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Thank you. 12.4.2, financial statements. As at the 30th of November, we have the officer's recommendation. Do I have a mover for this one, please, councillors? Councillor Carboni, seconder Councillor Hitchcock. Any discussion, councillors? Put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Thank you. Just making sure the minute taker's keeping up. We're picking up speed here. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. 12.5.1, proposed updates to the Shire of Harvey grants process. We require a simple majority in regards to this one. Do I have a mover for this one? Thanks, councillors Morley. Thank you. Seconder, councillor McCarthy. Our two new councillors, well done. Councillor Morley, would you like to speak to it? Councillor McCarthy. Any speakers against or for? I think we've had sufficient briefing on this one by staff, so let's put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Thank you, councillors. 12.5.2, the Leschenault Leisure Centre Service Review Update. I have an officer's recommendation here. Do I have a mover in relation to this one, councillors? Dickinson, thank you. Seconder, councillor Bromham. Councillor Dickinson, would you want to speak to this one? No? Councillor Bromham? No, sir. Likely to be any discussion, councillors? No. Require an absolute majority in relation to this one, so I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Thank you, councillors. Do I have anything stuck in here? What am I missing? The Australia Day?
That's, I think that's still. That's 16, yes. So it's
Oh, it's still coming, sorry. All right, we have up to item 13, elected members' motions, of which previous notice has been given. We have one here from councillor Carboni. Do I have a seconder for this one? Councillor Holly. Councillor Carboni, you wish to speak to this one? Thank you.
Thanks, Madam President. Won't take long. This just comes out of the last local government election. Obviously, as you all know, voting is very low in the postal vote election process. I think we were only, off the top of my head, 28%, I think, this time round, something like that, of voters. I think in this day and age, where no one uses letters, where someone to fill out a postal vote form's actually got to physically go and post it at a post office. Very few people use letters now. Obviously, they send emails or use their phones. So it's just a motion for us, for our CEO to take it to the representative bodies and see if we can explore using electronic voting. Now, it's used in other parts of the world quite successfully. I can't see why we can't do it here. Obviously, there's been soundings from the local government minister that she may bring in compulsory voting, which I think will be a retrograde step because it will politicise the election process. You will need political parties to back you. You will need a lot of money as a candidate to get your message out to the community or get your name ID up. As you know, people only vote for who they know in local government elections. So to get your name out there, it's going to cost you a lot of money in advertising, postal, posting letters or through the papers or whatever. So I think electronic voting's the way to go. Like I said, we may get overruled by the local government minister in the future, but I can't see that it's an expensive process or even a lengthy process to get to come up with an option for that.
Thank you, Councillor Carboni. Councillor Holly as the seconder.
Probably not much else to say, but I think we could be leaders in this. And as we know, we live on our phones, but yeah, to go to a post office now, unless you're going to a coffee club, you don't go past the post office. So people they just about don't know what they are. So where to put a stamp, some young people wouldn't know. So I think it could be a market leader for us, to be honest.
Thank you, Councillor Holly. Any speakers for or against? For. Councillor Coleman.
Thanks, Madam President. At the last election, we had a number of voters in our shire that did not receive ballots. And of course, if they were carting hay or if they were sick or didn't have a car, they could not get in and get another ballot and no one else could get it for them. So we had a significant number of people in our shire who couldn't vote for that reason and a number of reasons, if you're sick or infirm, whatever. So I think the electronic voting will actually rule that out to a large degree and enable people to have a more fair representation of votes. And I would suggest even without compulsory voting, it would lift our return rate significantly.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman. Any other speaker for or against? Councillor McCarthy.
I'm not sure if it's for or against.
Are you sitting on the... No, you can't. Sorry. We used to have an ex-councillor that was... I didn't know whether I'm speaking for or against. Make a decision. Yes. Councillor McCarthy.
I just want to, I guess, highlight the fact that not everybody is IT savvy. So I would like to see that if something like this was taken, that it also was available in other forms aside of electronic.
Thank you, Councillor McCarthy. Any further discussion? We'll put this one to the vote unless Councillor Carboni wants to rebut anything. Okay, let's put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Thank you. Notice of motion for the following meeting is nil. Having a rest in January. Thank you. Reports of members. Some have been sent through. Are there any councillors that would like to report on anything? Councillor Coleman.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Councillor Dixon and I went to the Alcoa community meeting during the week. And as was reported in the Harvey Reporter, they have rescinded a whole heap of land that they have quarantined now, having found either rare plants, birds or animals within that ground. So it's actually a real win for the community. Thousands of hectares, was it? Thousands of hectares that were now quarantined free of logging or mining for Alcoa. So that was a great outcome and shows that they're actually listening to the community whilst providing us with the aluminium that we need in our everyday lives.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman. Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you. I have sent my report through, but I would also like to add that on Saturday, Harvey History Online had their wind-up meeting and Kerry Davis was presented with life membership. She was part of that group in the formation days in 1988. She was part of the committee that wrote the Centennial book for the Shire, and she also was involved in the Heritage and Reflections books that were published. So I just would like to acknowledge that Kerry has also been on the Heritage Advisory Group for the Shire in the past and was involved in the current municipal inventory when that was adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. And you've got one more, Councillor
Sorry. Just an acknowledgement. The Shire of Harvey has been involved in the fight the bite for a very long time. And recently the WA Health Department put out initiatives for not-for-profits. And the Harvey Bowling Club was the first in the state to take that up. And GWN7 were out there filming this morning as an initiative in conjunction with the Men's Shed, showing that Harvey were the first in the state to take up that initiative, followed very closely by Rotary. Not that they got a gig, but it should be on the news tonight about the Harvey Bowling Club taking up that initiative that obviously the Shire started many years ago.
Thank you. All righty, I just have a couple. I just want to shout out to the Harvey Lions and volunteers for the two fantastic events held in Harvey recently. Firstly being the Harvey Gala Night, which was bigger and better than previous years, and the Lions Christmas dinner that was held last Friday evening. Greatly appreciated by the community. Also to the Harvey Aboriginal Corporation for their NAIDOC Christmas function last Sunday or the Sunday before. That was excellent. And of course, the Shire's own Sunset Festival, as has been stated, so well supported by the community. Fantastic attendance. A shout out to our Shire trainees who had been planning, problem solving and collaborating to bring this annual event to life, and also to our staff who put in such a huge effort on the day under very trying conditions. So well done, everybody. Are there any other reports, councillors? Okay, we'll now move to 16, new business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of meeting. So I put forth The following motion that council, in accordance with Shire of Harvey Standing Orders 2017 S 5.4, new business of an urgent nature, introduce confidential item? It's not confidential. Item 16.1.1 to the agenda, which is the Australia Day citizenship ceremony. So do I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Carboni, thank you. Any discussion? I'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Coleman, are you in favour of bringing this item? I'll do that vote again. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Thank you. All right, I'll give you a couple of minutes just to have a read through this one, councillors. This one.
Item of urgent business to bring it onto the agenda.
Bring it onto the agenda. Sorry, Councillor Coleman. It's been a long day, I know. So, yeah, so we are now having a look at the item. We have an officer's recommendation as per the screen. Do I bring this up now?
That is an alternative.
Yeah.
So we need to put this one forward.
Yeah, okay.
Just foreshadow in terms of.
Okay then. Do I have a mover for this one? Councillor Carboni. A seconder, Councillor Bromham. Councillor Carboni. Question, Councillor Hitchcock.
Do we need to put in there in 2026, or is that covered?
And we can make that administrative.
January 2026.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Councillor Carboni. You wish to speak to this one?
Yeah, I was, for the benefit of the two gentlemen in the gallery, obviously I spoke to this earlier on today.
Where's my thing?
Obviously holding two citizenship ceremonies in the Shire has logistical problems for the Shire President as well as staff. It's been noted that Brunswick and Harvey both want to hold their Australia Day breakfasts at the optimum time of between 7 and 9 o'clock, and obviously that makes it difficult to have two citizenship ceremonies. And I was one when we moved to go to one citizenship ceremony on Australia Day. I was one that I think, if I did not move, I certainly supported that we keep the two, because I can see as Australind grows bigger and bigger, there'll be more inclination for everything to move to Australind and the rest of the Shire get dropped off. So I think while we keep those two, even though there's no Australia Day citizenship ceremony in Australind, I'm sure something will happen in the future. And it may be able to return back there. But this year it's in Brunswick, and I think the only way suggests that we can have this is to deputise the position and have the two in two separate locations. I think this will be good for the community. I think it optimises those times when that both localities can have the citizenship ceremony, and it's all about making that day for those people receiving their citizenships that it's as special as possible and the best that it can be.
Question, Councillor Coleman.
Thanks, Madam President. Whilst I don't disagree with the officer's recommendation, I'm just wondering whether it would be pertinent to ask the chair of the Harvey committee, who just happens to be here, if they're allowed to speak. My question would be, can we not accommodate, okay, two questions, Madam President, one to you and one in general. Can we reasonably accommodate both ceremonies and allow the President with reasonable time, without being rushed off your feet, to get to both? Is number one. So that's from the President's point of view. Number two, could the citizenship ceremonies, one starting earlier and one starting a bit later, be enough to stagger it to allow that to occur?
It has been done in the past. So in relation to myself as the Shire President being able to accommodate the two, if we could negotiate times, is achievable. The issue is around having the qualified staff able to have the time to correctly and legally check all the information that's required to be ticked off by those that are going through this citizenship process. So, albeit I can do the ceremony in Brunswick and then maybe head up to Harvey, the real issue lies in the availability of staff to go through that operational aspect of the citizenship ceremony and confirming the accuracy of the conferees. I was getting the word there, yes, and allowing enough time for that to occur for staff. And I'll ask the Manager Governance to elaborate a bit further on that one.
Thank you. And through the Shire President, when we met with the representatives from the Brunswick Lions, the ideal time was to have the conferees actually arrive at 6:45 in the morning in order for the ceremony to start at around 7 o'clock. It was felt by the reps that that was way too early, and actually it's probably going to be a bit of a push for the conferees as well to get there at 6:45. So it was going to be staggered so that that could occur. The suggestion from Lions was that we had the ceremony after they've had the breakfast, and that's also in the report due to the layout of the building, etc. Having people cooking while you're trying to run a citizenship ceremony is probably not that appropriate. So if they were to have their ceremony at 8:30, then the President getting to Harvey would probably be around 10 o'clock, which would be well past the event for Australia Day here.
Follow-up question?
Yes, thanks, Madam President. So if I've heard correctly, we would have two sets of staff, one at each event, doing the official stuff. Is that what you're suggesting?
That's what we would need at a minimum.
As a minimum,
At
right?
yeah.
So the issue is really the timing of the presentations to allow you to get to both, yeah?
Yeah, and I believe the availability of staff to be there on Australia Day performing this function when it could be easily rectified at this stage and at this time by having it in the one location. Alleviates a lot of the stress, and I'll leave that for you to ponder on, Councillor Coleman, unless someone can emphasise. Yeah. So I'm going to move to Councillor Bromham as the seconder.
Make a comment.
You're the seconder, Councillor Bromham. I'm asking you to speak to the motion as it sits now, the resolution, as the seconder.
Yeah, I'm happy to second this one this year. I think it's important for these things to occur within their communities, and I think the local people in both Harvey and Brunswick will be pleased to see this occurring.
Thank you. I'm going to speak against it, and I foreshadow the motion on the screen there. As I've said, after careful consideration, it is not recommended to support the holding of two Australia Day citizenship ceremonies, and this may answer some of the questions that have been asked. I acknowledge the Brunswick Lions for initially supporting the request to hold a citizenship ceremony as part of their Australia Day celebrations. Firstly, councillors, considerable time has been spent already by staff in efforts to accommodate council's previous or initial resolution to hold 2 citizenship ceremonies during the 2026 Australia Day, including significant pressure from the Home Affairs Office, to provide information on where and when the ceremonies are to be held. Conducting multiple ceremonies on the same day within hours of each other significantly increases staffing requirements and places additional pressure on operational resources. Citizenship ceremonies involve critical statutory requirements, including the verification and checking of participants' particulars, which must be completed accurately and thoroughly to meet legislative requirements. Ensuring the integrity of this process is an essential operational responsibility, and placing time restrictions and splitting the limited staff resources over 2 locations increases the risk of errors and reduces the ability to provide the necessary oversight required for such a formal and legally significant function. Can the Deputy Shire President oversee the citizenship ceremony in Brunswick at 0830 hours? Yes. By completing the appropriate paperwork, the Deputy Shire President can be authorised to do so. However, it does not remove the operational and staff resourcing issues to ensure everything is done correctly and to accommodate the timings requested from the Harvey Australia Day Committee. Therefore, I acknowledge that the intent is to have the 2 citizenship ceremonies within the communities. The fact that we've had to change locations and still have the operational staff available to go through and make sure that everything is done absolutely correctly before I sign off, or whoever is presiding at this citizenship ceremony is done correctly, because it's my signature that goes on it, then I ask councillors to consider holding just the 1 Australia Day citizenship in Harvey for 2026, and then let's bring it back next year and let's sort it out once and for all moving forward, whether we go into keep it as 1 location or pursue, for the same reasons that's been discussed in the debate today, that we identify or support it being held in 2 locations, and maybe with the Deputy Shire President being deputised to remove that issue, and having relevant staff available to do what needs to be done. So I'm speaking against the officer's recommendation as it is, and ask councillors to support my foreshadowed. Do I have a speaker for question, Councillor Holly?
Haven't we discussed the staffing issues a couple of meetings ago about the Australia Day, and we put our hand up to make sure that we're there and are able to do it? I think we got enough sensible people within the council to be able to do the right, the ticking off of people and the, to make sure. I mean, I know I'm a JP, but I could do it, so I'm pretty sure everyone else could be able to do it as well. So I just thought we'd discuss that.
We did discuss councillor support. So, Councillor Holly, I think you said you were available for Harvey, and Councillor Carboni was available for Brunswick. But at the end of the day, it's an operational requirement, and we need to make sure that we get it. And I'm not taking it away from the ability of councillors to do the correct ticking and flicking, but it's to have the staff that have gone through this process before. We hold a number of these, and there is a process, and we just want to make sure that we get it right on the day. Question, Councillor Bromham?
Yeah, I have. I see this as being an issue for the future, and the idea of holding it in one place is obviously operationally a better way to go. So my question is, why couldn't we rotate and just hold it in one location and then another?
And that may be a decision that comes when we workshop it in the new year, Councillor Bromham, moving forward. Councillor Coleman, question?
Yeah, just a question. For future years, would it be a valid request that whomever, the powers that be, come and give councillors a training and certification session so that we can support that accurately? and support the CEO and yourself, or would that not be valid? Because I'm thinking that if we can, particularly on early mornings like that, where it's, you know, triple pay rates and all sorts of things and risk involved.
And that to the CEO to respond. Thanks, Councillor Coleman.
I would suggest that that type of work is operational and therefore needs to be undertaken by staff.
Any speaker for the officer's recommendation that's sitting there at the moment? Speaker against? Councillor Carboni, you moved it. Did you wish to rebut or close the debate?
Well, yeah. Well, I guess this is the come to Jesus moment, I suppose. And I don't know whether you'd have to rescind your previous motion here or not with your foreshadowed motion. But it all boils down to now whether you want 2 citizenship ceremonies or not. And even when we did them in the past, by the time the President got to Australind, and this is from advice from the staff, was it yesterday we met? From the advice yesterday that it was getting late to be done at Australind as well, and people were leaving and tents were getting packed up, etc. So maybe we do go back to 1 citizenship ceremony and rotate it. And I don't think the Brunswick Lions Club will be too upset about it. But if that's the way that the Shire wants to go, and obviously if it's an operational matter, as well as the Shire President's time to get to both locations, well, then we go that way and we rescind our former motion that we didn't go that way. I think a Shire of this size, of this diversity, of spread out over such a long distance, should have the ability to do 2 citizenship ceremonies. I mean, we're talking about 50 people here. If we can't do 25 in 2 localities, with over 230 staff on the Shire, we can't get enough people, something's wrong. But yeah, I'll support this for this year, having the 2 locations and see if it works or not.
All right, we'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? We are voting on what's on the screen. Let me put that again. All those in favour for what's on the screen? 1, 2, for 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Against? 5. That one is lost. We'll move to the foreshadowed, which is up on the screen when we're ready. That's okay. All right, councillors, are we right? Minute taker? Thank you. I'm happy to move this one, of course. Do I have a seconder? Councillor McCarthy. I'm not going to speak to it because I think I've already spoken enough to this one. Councillor McCarthy, did you wish to say anything?
Only that I think that with the time frame we have, I think the best solution is to have just the 1 in 2026, as long as it doesn't preclude further choices of 2 or rotating later on.
Okay. Speaker against? No. For? Councillor Morley.
Yeah, probably more of a comment than anything else. We are obviously regulated by legislation, and legislation plays the key role here. But we're also, again, limited by staff availability. I think after 2026 Australia Day that we do need to sit down and discuss, because we don't have more than 2 locations. We have Harvey, we have Brunswick, and we have Australind, Australind being our largest community area, and you know there's going to be opportunity to move from place to place, and I think it's vitally important. I think we should have 1 ceremony but rotate it over the next little while. So I agree with your motion.
Thank you. Any speaker against? I'm going to put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Thank you very much for that, councillors. All right, we are now going to move behind closed doors. I think that's correct. If I have a mover, please, that we go behind closed doors. Councillor Holly, seconded Councillor Dickinson. I put this one to the vote. All those in favour? All those in favour? Councillor Morley? Hand up. Thank you. 9-0. When you're ready, Adam. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Can I say that all the items that were behind closed doors were carried as per the officer's recommendation, and in relation to item 17.2.1, there has been a slight amendment where we have requested the CEO bring a report back to council in March of next year. Alrighty. I think we'll call that an end. Councillors and staff, thank you very much. It's the last one for the year, and what a big one to go out on. Well done, councillors. Thank you very much for your support and staff throughout the year. Freya, it's her last meeting with us, so she's leaving us and going on 12 months maternity leave, and I'm sure we'll be back, but we wish you all the very best, Freya. And I'm sure and thank you for all your assistance. To staff, have a great Christmas. Thank you for all your support throughout the year. And I now declare this December Ordinary Council meeting